You all know I've been harping on how badly Colorado needs another linebacker, and the transfer portal may have just gifted them a prime opportunity to add another one.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share, and let's grow this community. Okay, let's talk about Colorado's transfer portal needs. And you're probably like, how do they have any transfer portal needs? You look at their 2024 roster, and Colorado made some big moves. They obviously addressed the offensive line issue. They didn't really have a wide receiver issue, but now they definitely don't have a wide receiver issue. They brought in what 24/7 Sports has as the number 8th ranked portal class in the country. They went out and added depth in the secondary. They added ton of depth in the trenches, whether it's the offensive line or the defensive line. But there's one position group where I felt, and I think a lot of people would agree with this sentiment, that they could use some more depth and experience. Now, a lot of people have disagreed with this take, and I think that's fine. I do think that this position is just one that worried me a lot last year, and I think had the offensive line been average last year, we would have realized how much the linebacker group struggled. And so you look at what Colorado needs heading into this season. They have the quarterback. They have the offensive line. The running back room, scary. They have just dogs on dogs. The wide receivers never was an issue, and it only got stronger. Defense line has become a strength. The secondary, they went out and added a lot of depth. They added some key playmakers like DJ McKinney, Preston Hodge, and then they have safeties like Shedeur Sanders. And they also added a safety who I think could make things really interesting, Savion Riley, the Miami transfer, but that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk to you about the linebacker group. The linebacker group was a little bit on the weaker side last year, and I think there's a lot of issues. The defense line was kind of setting them up for failure by not really clogging holes or not really helping out in the run game, and then the linebacker group struggled to tackle. Levante Bentley emerged, I would say, as not a star, but one of the key players for that unit, and he returns. Juwan Mitchell had some bright moments, but obviously he kind of fell out of favor with the staff, and we saw that on the Amazon Prime documentary where he was making a phone call prior to one of the games, and Coach Prime screaming at him. And then they moved Trevor Woods down to linebacker, and obviously he's always made an impact. I don't really know where his impact will be the most this upcoming season. I feel like there's a lot of cases for and against him being a linebacker, and there's a lot of cases for and against him being a safety. I think he has good ball skills. Is he big enough to play at the linebacker spot? Is he consistent enough to play at the linebacker spot? We'll find out because I feel like he is definitely the one guy where it's obvious the staff likes him, but what is his role going to be? And so on today's Monday, I almost forgot what day it was. On Monday, the transfer portal got another linebacker entry, and this is one that's experienced. It's one that's right at the position that they need. It's that linebacker. And so first, let me tell you guys about the linebacker group that Colorado had last year. If you look at PFF, and obviously you don't want to base everything off PFF, but it does provide a nice sort of grading scale just to find out how good the team was or how good certain positions were. The linebackers, which these are the ones that played the most snaps. Jeremiah Brown was credited in 4 games, Demoy Kennedy 7, Marvin Ham the second, he was in 9 games, Brendan Gant 2, Levante Bentley 12, and Juwan Mitchell, at 5. This is where it gets a little tricky. Of those guys that I just mentioned, Jeremiah Brown had the highest grade overall of a 64.3, which per PFF standard is right around average, a little bit below. And then below him, and then the next highest number or grade, was Marvin Ham at 60. So it literally goes Demoy Kennedy, who's no longer with the program, 49.1. Noah Young, 1 game, 58.1. Marvin Ham, 60.8. Brendan Gant, 55.3. Levante Bentley, 52.1. And Juwan Mitchell, 59.8. They go out into the portal and they get Jalen Wester, who I think I'm really interested to see how he plays. I think he has the potential to be a tackling machine. He's a little bit undersized, so I don't know if he's an every down linebacker. They go out and get Charlotte transfer and former Michigan linebacker Nikhai Hill-Green, who I think starts. They also added Kieran Garcia in the recruiting class, and then they also added Johnny Chaney Jr. from Florida A&M. But this guy's a grad transfer. He's been in college for 7 years. Florida guy, which Coach Prime loves. His name is Fa'Najae Gotay, I believe is how you say it. I could be butchering the hell out of that. But he has a ton of experience under his belt. And I think it's realistically, the more experience, the better. I think the more depth you get, the better. It's just one of those things where it doesn't hurt to have more. It's like chips and salsa, if you will. When you go to a nice Mexican restaurant, right? We all know how many baskets of chips and salsa do we need? Probably one, right? But when the waiter's like, "Do you want more chips and salsa?" You're like, "Yeah, bring me more. Bring a couple." And I think that's what Colorado should treat this as. They have around, I think, at the middle part of May, they had 80 scholarship players. I don't think that team or that mark has changed since. I could be wrong. I think they're around the 80 scholarship threshold, which means that they could make a move. And this is the move I think they need to make. And so a little bit about Fa'Najae, Florida guy who Maryland apparently did not lose any portal players this entire spring window. They were the only Power 5 program that didn't lose a player during the spring window. He played in 24 games these past couple years, ranking 6th on the team with 48 tackles. He did lead the team in tackles during their Music City Bowl win over Auburn. He's renowned for how hard he hits. And this is kind of how he has so much eligibility. Redshirted as a freshman, received a medical redshirt after missing 2021, and is set to play a 7th season due to COVID. They obviously, in Maryland, they kind of had a strong linebacker group, so he wants somewhere where he can make an impact. He wants somewhere where he can start right away, or at least be in that rotation, because Maryland was returning a lot of their linebackers. So you look at Colorado, and it's like, yes, they have Levante Bentley. Yes, they have Nikhai Hill-Green. But who's going to claim those spots after them? Who's going to claim those spots? Are those spots claimed? And I think Fa'Najae, realistically, if Colorado were to land him, that's just more depth at that position. That's another body they could throw out. Because here's the thing. Guys are going to improve, yes. But there's things such as injury. You never know what's going to happen. You don't know if schemes are going to limit certain guys. Like maybe Trevor Woods against a run-heavy team. Maybe they don't want him trying to get in the box and trying to just try to sell out on all these tackles. And maybe he's just not that capable of a tackle. Maybe Jalen Wester, they use him in obvious run situations, but they need someone who could help out in coverage, right? And so a guy like Fa'Najae, who's experienced and kind of has that knack, I guess, if you will, to sort of at least know what he needs to do, because obviously Colorado, they could use all the help they can get. And I'm not saying that Fa'Najae was just all worldly, because if he was, he probably wouldn't be transferring. But he's someone who they need to kind of, or I won't say they need, but it'd be nice, it'd be nice to have someone who could add depth, who could lead by example. His grades per PFF were 64.1. Overall, he had a run defense grade of a 71.3, and then a 69.7 pass rush grade. In coverage, not so great. So probably won't help out in coverage, 55.3. But that's where Trevor Woods comes in. But if you need someone to get to the quarterback, or if you need someone to kind of help stop the run, this is your guy. And those are two things that Colorado struggled with last year. So adding him could take this linebacker group to another level and somewhat improve them before the season, because we all know the Big 12 has some talented quarterbacks, it has some talented running backs, and getting to them and disrupting their flow is of the utmost importance for Coach Prime and his defense in 2024. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about Colorado's quarterback plan of the future. It appears to be taking another turn. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me a part of your daily routine and making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me 5 stars, share this with a friend. Let's talk about Colorado's quarterback plan of the future. Now, a lot of people have sort of been set on Julian Lewis, and I think that's kind of a interesting recruitment, and I think Colorado has a lot of work to be done in that recruitment because obviously he's a USC pledge. He's entertaining schools like Indiana, Auburn. So what is Colorado's quarterback plan of the future? Well, I think they're going to try to land a highly touted recruit, which is not a hot take, right? But I do think after Shedeur Sanders leaves, they're either all in on Julian Lewis or they're going to take a portal quarterback, next season, and then they're going to build their program around a 2026 quarterback. And I think they already have that target in mind. His name is Jaden O'Neal. He's a Harbor City, California product. Oklahoma is currently the favorite, but he did take a trip to Colorado. He said, and this is a quote, Colorado's going amazing. One big takeaway is Coach Deion. Coach Deion is old school coach who takes much pride in character and integrity with the players he recruits. Said, I'm loving the coaching staff and how experienced they are. Having NFL experience truly draws my eye to this school. So a little bit about him. This past year, completed over 60% of his passes for nearly 2,500 yards, 27 picks. Also added 3 rushing touchdowns. So there's him. Obviously, I think Julian Lewis is probably still the main priority because you want someone who, in every class, you want to bring in the quarterback in every class, right? But you want someone who can sort of attract other players. And right now, Julian Lewis has that aura to him. He's a 5-star, 16th ranked player in the country, 3rd quarterback in the country, 37 offers. He's got programs like USC, Auburn, Colorado, Indiana, Alabama. They're all coming for him. Obviously, he's committed. He had a, quote, phenomenal visit to USC over the weekend. The sort of breakdown on him is he's a point guard on the football field that can distribute the football all over the place. He's not known for his size or his arm, but he throws it nice direct spiral. This is according to 24/7. Doesn't have a true cannon, but will drop balls over coverage into the deeper third. He has a 25-3 record as a starter while competing in Georgia's highest level of high school football. This past season, he threw for over 3,000 yards, 48 touchdowns, and just 2 picks. So where does Colorado go? Well, I think Shedeur Sanders has to play a huge role in recruiting Julian Lewis. I think if there's anyone that could kind of sell the program, it's Shedeur. It's like, hey, come in. I'm going to set this program up to succeed, and all you have to do is maintain it and help take it to the next level. I think that's kind of like Shedeur has the harder part, if you will, or the harder job. He has to get to this program to a point where they can succeed, to a point where they are no longer like, is Colorado just a freak show that's getting all this transfer portal hoopla, or are they actually able to compete? And that's what Shedeur Sanders has to overcome. And I think a lot of people may say that's easier said than done, or may think that's easy, but it's not. Colorado has a tough schedule. They obviously are going to bring in a ton of new players. They're going to have a new offensive line. They're going to have a new defensive line. They have a lot of new things, new coaching staff. Shedeur Sanders is playing for like his 5th play caller in 4 years. And so it's like, what does Colorado need to do to get a top tier quarterback like a Julian Lewis or Jaden O'Neal? Well, they need their quarterback to shine, but they also need their quarterback to help sell the program. And I don't think there's a quarterback in college football that's as popular, as cool, or has, as the kids say, as much aura as Shedeur Sanders. So if he could kind of help sell this program to one of those guys, that will make a major difference for Colorado for future years. Like if they're able to land a quarterback at the high school ranks that they could build their class around, that is huge. Because right now, I think every program in the country wants to have a recruit where it's like, okay, this guy's a 5-star. We're building our class around him. All the recruits gravitate towards him. All the recruits want to play with him or play on the same team as him. And I think Colorado is lacking that recruit at this moment. But that's not to say their 2025 class isn't capable of getting that guy, because you look at their 2025 class right now, and they have 3 high school commits. Alex Graham is the highest ranked commit according to 24/7, 3-star out of IMG according to their new rankings. Then they have Montrez Walker and then Corbin Lazier, a tight end. So they don't really have like a headliner. They need someone who other recruits are like, oh damn, Jordan Seaton committed to Colorado. Oh damn, like Cormani McLean committed to Colorado. Maybe I should be over there too. I think they need that guy, and I think one of those guys, whether it's Jaden or Julian, they need someone to step up a quarterback and be the face of not only the future face of the program, but the future or the face of a recruiting class. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about the FPI, what it says about Colorado, and how things could either go well or maybe not so well in 2024. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. You could bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you could bet to use on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Jaylen Brown, he's got to be the NBA Finals MVP pick right now. He is carrying the Celtics offensively, stepping up for Jason Tatum. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, and who doesn't love free things? By the way, let me tell you about something really cool that we're doing over here at Locked On. Are you watching Fox Sports on or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Let's talk about this ESPN FPI. I talked about it a little last week. If you guys don't remember, Colorado is ranked pretty high considering they were not as high last year. They're ranked 36th, which in the Big 12 is good enough to be, let's see it here. It's loading a little bit. That is about middle of the pack, more towards the bottom. It goes in order. Kansas #1, Kansas State #2, Arizona 3, Oklahoma State 4, Utah 5, Texas Tech 6, TCU 7, UCF 8, West Virginia 9, Colorado 10, and then it goes Iowa State, Baylor, Arizona State, Cincinnati, BYU, Houston. And then if you look at the Big 12 as a whole, they have 10 teams in the top 40. So it's going to be a very tightly contested conference. You look at Colorado though, and there was 3 things that really stood out to me. One, they gave Colorado a 63% chance of reaching 6 wins, which if you guys don't know why that's important, that's a bowl game. If Colorado makes a bowl game in year 2, I think that's the kind of success. Sorry, my laptop over here is struggling. Needed to adjust it. That's the type of success that recruits, transfers, and other people want to see from Coach Prime in year 2. They want to see him take that jump. They win 4 games in year 1, which was a successful season. And what's next? Well, what's next is a bowl game. Obviously, making the playoff would be great. Making the Big 12 title game would be great. But people should not sleep on the importance of making a bowl game, because that shows that Colorado is taking the necessary steps forward and that there is improvement around the program. So that stood out to me. Also, what else stood out to me is their chance at making the playoff, which was at 5.8%, which means for Colorado, there's a realistic path where they're kind of, I don't know, I won't say messing around and flirting with the playoff a little bit, but there's a path to where Colorado could end up in the playoff. Now, obviously, that would take quite a few things. That would take certain programs falling at certain times, like say Utah loses a couple games late, or say Arizona is not as good as people thought, or Kansas, same thing. But I think a Colorado playoff run would be possible if the offensive line is great, the defense line is great, and there's health. And obviously, those are 3 big ifs. What else did I notice? Well, this is where it gets really interesting to me. Colorado ranked as, like I said, the 10th best team in the conference, right? Well, you look at their strength of schedule, and Colorado has the 3rd toughest strength of schedule in the conference and the 45th toughest strength of schedule in the entire college football world. So only West Virginia and Houston had a tougher schedule. And it doesn't shock me. You know why? Because I look at those final 4 weeks where it's like Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and who am I missing? Colorado's schedule. Let's pull that up real quick. Because Colorado's schedule is one where starts off fairly, I won't say, like, I have in front of me now. We have North Dakota at Nebraska, tough matchups there. At Colorado State, those are 3 of the toughest ways to open the season. You have one FCS program that is literally a Power 5 program with the FCS funding and FCS at the FCS level. Then you have Nebraska and Colorado State, both of which are rivals, both of which hate you, both of which have beef from last year, both of those on the road. Baylor, who has a coach that's coaching for his life. UCF, who underrated team, I think, in the Big 12. Then they have Kansas State, who's probably going to be a title contender in the Big 12. Arizona, who wants to be a title contender in the Big 12. They kept a lot of key players. Cincinnati should be an easier game. Then they have at Texas Tech, against number 10 Utah, at Kansas, and then against Oklahoma State. So they play all of the best teams in the Big 12. And so I see why that's difficult, and I see why that could be challenging. So Colorado really needs to get off to a strong start, because if they're kind of meandering and sort of winning a couple games here, dropping a game there, like if there's no flow in the season for them, it could get difficult, and reaching that 6 games or contending for that Big 12 title may be a lot tougher than people realize. You guys comment below which game, because we're going to talk about strength of schedule coming up this week. We're going to be talking about strength of schedule a lot. Which game worries you the most for Colorado in their first 5 games? Is it Nebraska? Is it North Dakota State? You guys let me know. Comment below. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. I will see you guys tomorrow.